Okay, my name is Mark O'Keefe. I'm executive editor of Herald-Standard.com. Welcome to this Herald-Standard.com editorial board session between candidates for the 50th Legislative District, which includes all Fayette County and parts, or all Greene County and parts of Fayette and Washington counties. The candidates are Republican Mark Fischer and Democrat Pam Snyder, and we thank them both for agreeing to meet with us. Editorial board members present today are Managing Editor Content Terry Snead and community members Bill Long and Jerome Venick. Candidates will get 3 minutes for an opening and closing statements and 3 minutes to answer questions from members of the editorial board. So we'll start out with the opening. We'll go alphabetically, and I believe that's you, Mark.
Okay. Thank you. I want to thank you for hosting this event. It went well in the primary. It's a good forum to let voters know what's going on, what the issues are, and how we feel. I was born and raised in Greene County, left the area for a career in public safety, came back through a long process, but made my way back, resettled, and I'm quite happy to be there. It's been an adventure. I've learned a lot. I've worked in a lot of different government capacities, led significant projects, and along the way I've developed a bit of a political focus. You know, everybody does as they grow, and I certainly did. I think most significantly I've come to realize that we have to have a change in direction at all levels of government. Things that we're doing aren't working well. We've got crushing debt. We've got numerous issues out there to deal with. And I think that a fitting end to my career would be to serve in an elected capacity to try to make changes that endure and produce results that are long-term. I think the 50th District has had a good history under our former representative, Bill DeWeese. I think we made progress in a lot of areas, but there's still a lot we could do. And I think that the ability to keep our young people in the area with good, viable employment is a major issue. I know I had to leave because we didn't have those options. So certainly that needs to be a focus. Additionally, I am definitely a conservative, small government individual. I support trying to restrain government growth in any capacity possible. We've basically written checks that it's going to be very hard to cash out there at all levels. And I think we can do a better job in Pennsylvania with the way we approach the major problems of today. I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of them as the event goes on, but we certainly have to look at solutions outside of government. We need leaders that have the courage to stand up and try to make those kind of changes, and I am one of those individuals. I will certainly work faithfully for the residents of the 50th District. I will do my best to represent them, and I'm looking forward to an opportunity to go to Harrisburg and provide a different perspective in the 50th.
Seconds.
Thank you. A different perspective in the 50th District than what maybe has been there in the past. My loyalty is to the residents of the 50th District. I'm not owned by anybody, and I will not be. I don't accept large campaign contributions from special interests, never will. I want to work for you to try to produce results. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Pam?
Good afternoon. I really want to thank the Herald-Standard editorial board for hosting this forum. I look forward to the questions. I would just like to tell you a little bit about myself for those that may not know me. I am Pam Snyder. I am serving in my 9th year as chairman of the Board of Greene County Commissioners. Prior to that, I worked 8 years as deputy district director for Congressman Frank Mascara. That district encompassed 5 counties, and the entire 50th District was in that congressional seat. I am married to my husband, Jack. We will have our 39th wedding anniversary next week. We have 2 beautiful daughters and 2 beautiful grandchildren. Our oldest daughter recently built a house on our 55-acre, 3rd-generational family farm, so we're very blessed. Our daughter and husband and grandkids live next door. Our youngest daughter just started her career teaching high school special education at Carmichael School District, and she is getting married next July, and she too is going to build a house on the farm. So when I say we are blessed, we are truly blessed. And those types of issues are the reason that I do what I do. Those types of meaningful relationships, family. That's what it's about. That's why I do what I do. Jack and I are lucky. Our girls are able to live here, work here, and prosper here. And that's what I strive for every day in Greene County, that everybody's children has that opportunity to live, work, and have a quality of life in Greene County that they deserve. I have been involved in many regional organizations in my 9 years. The one thing I knew when I became commissioner was Greene County cannot be an island. We are not an island. In order to be successful, we have to be able to reach out to our neighbors, Fayette County, Washington County. I am the first vice president of the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, and just last month I was chosen by my peers across the state as the 2012 Outstanding County Commissioner of the Year, and that was an award that really touched my heart and meant a lot to me. I am the secretary of the Southwest Pennsylvania Commission, and that is the 10-county metropolitan planning organization that the transportation dollars flow through. I sit on the board there and hold a leadership position. I am on the Community Advisory Board at Southwest Regional Medical Center, and I am on the Greene County Local Emergency Planning Committee. I also co-chair the Economic Development Committee through the Institute of Politics at the University of Pittsburgh. Through that committee, we partnered with the Environmental and Land Use Committee and formed the Marcellus Shale Roundtable. I also am a member of that. And last but certainly not least, my husband and family and I attend St. Marcellus Catholic Church in Jefferson, where we are very active and involved. I am a Eucharistic minister and a lector there. So I look forward to the dialogue today, and thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. Terry, you want to take the first question?
Sure. What's your opinion of the new voter ID law? Do you think the state is doing enough to make sure that voters have the proper identification to vote?
Start with Pam.
Me? I think the law is a bit cumbersome. I think with all of the challenges we have here in Pennsylvania, education being cut constantly, as commissioner, we've had 10 consecutive years of cuts in human services funding. Direct services that impact people's lives every day. We have had to make tough decisions to keep human services going some years in Greene County. I think the voter ID law is taking a lot of time and a lot of resources and a lot of money that could be spent somewhere a little better. I think the state is trying hard to put out all the information they can to make sure that people are aware, and I certainly hope they're successful, because there is nothing more important than a person's God-given right to their vote. And to try to hinder that vote in any way, shape, or form is just wrong. We are hosting a senior expo next Friday on October 5th at the Greene County Fairgrounds, and we will be having voter ID education there so that the senior citizens will know how they can obtain their ID easily if they don't have one. So I really hope this doesn't hinder people from voting, because I personally think we should be trying to make it easier for people to cast their vote, not harder.
Thank you.
Okay.
I strongly support the legislation to require ID for voting. And I understand the cumbersome nature of this for a few folks, certainly. I don't think that when you look at the history of this, I don't think we had a huge problem in our area with voter fraud. I don't believe that that's happened. But when you get into large population areas, clusters where there's voting, folks don't know each other like they do at our precincts. Most of the precinct workers around us pretty much know everybody. It's not that big of a deal. But other areas, it can be a big deal. It leaves open the opportunity for some type of fraud or some type of nefarious activity with voting. And I believe voting is the single most important thing we can do as citizens. And I think we have an obligation to protect that vote and ensure that the person casting the vote is who they say they are. I know in other areas, other states, there have been problems with, to varying degrees. There's not an agreed upon number of voter fraud cases out there, it's depending on which side of the aisle you're on. But I will point out, if you want to buy a pack of cigarettes, if you want to buy an alcoholic beverage, if you want to operate a motor vehicle, if you want to go to the Democrat convention, and on and on and on, you have to produce identification to show who you are. If you're not willing to make a commitment to show identification to vote, where does that leave us? And what does that say about a society that would say, we really don't care, we'll just trust you on this, come on in and vote? I think it's a ridiculous situation. Absolutely, voter ID should be required. We have ways to make this less cumbersome by going out and making identification locations available. I know PennDOT has done some of this. I know other organizations are as well. I think that's the prudent approach. We have to get this right. We've already got a problem nationwide with folks that have no identification whatsoever, and in many cases are not even legal citizens that have access to a multitude of services because we just don't worry about identification. I'm never going to think that's okay for voting. You must be eligible to vote before you cast that vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to take the next question. The Turnpike Commission is reportedly $7 billion in debt, with much of the revenue going to help pay for PennDOT's transportation costs. There is concern over whether the Turnpike Commission could default on the bonds. Do you share that concern? How do you think the Turnpike Commission should get out of debt? And also, do you think more revenue is needed to pay for the state's transportation needs? And how do you think it should be raised? And the last is, are you in favor of the Turnpike Commission raising its tolls by 3% each year till 2050 is the plan now? We'll start with Mark.
Yeah, Act 44 you're referring to, I believe it was in 2007, was based on Interstate 80 and the Turnpike, both being toll roads. Interstate 80 didn't materialize, it's not a toll road, so they're basically achieving less revenue by keeping it to the Turnpike. When that was done, the legislature burdened the Turnpike with $450 million per year for each highway that they would have to contribute to road improvement projects, but also mass transit projects and other incidental expenses. Obviously, without that additional revenue, they cut, once they couldn't do I-80, they cut the burden back to $450 million, but it still strikes me as a ridiculous amount of money to impose on a single toll road. I believe what we've seen is detours, truck traffic, and what have you that try to avoid the Turnpike because of the cost. And when we raise the cost, it's going to be even worse. Traffic seems to be very heavy on 79 and 68 across from Morgantown as a way to avoid the tolls. So I think the legislation was typical of what happens when you have political actors that don't consider the real outcome of what they're doing. They didn't think this through. And when you look at the time it was done, there are a lot of reasons for that. But the idea was to generate money. Let's get it into all these different programs. Let's increase government spending. That's exactly opposite to the way I approach these things. We need to constrain government. And in this case, bad legislation is constraining it. Now, it puts an awful burden on the Turnpike Commission. They're in a mess. I wouldn't necessarily defend that they've done the best job with the situation. However, we're racking up billions in debt while Pennsylvania government still spends the obligated dollars. Immediately when this fell into a lapse situation and the revenue was not successfully generated, those other projects should have been readdressed, either limited or eliminated, and that obligation reduced. We waited too long, as we do with many things. Now we're looking at billions of dollars that are owed. I think the only option here to work out a revenue schedule on the Turnpike that makes sense, not increase it so dramatically. It's gone up from, I believe it was in the low teens 10 years ago. Now it's going to hit almost $40 if you don't use an EZ pass or an E-pass. I think we need to look at those rates, figure out, and this can be done, it's not rocket science, but figure out what people are willing to pay so that we can get the most traffic on there that we can get safely, and then structure a repayment of the debt that's already owed that matches that revenue projection. But let's not impose any more burdens on that system. It's not going to work.
30 seconds.
Thank you. It's not going to work. And the idea that we take Turnpike money and pump it into transit systems. I saw the Philadelphia transit system was one of them. Come on, give me a break. This is ridiculous. What does the transit system do to feed the Turnpike, vice versa? Again, this is political math at its worst. So we have to get real, we have to reduce the cost, and set about a payment schedule that will work. Thank you.
Would you be in favor of raising the gas tax or anything else to try and help pay for these transportation needs across the state, or do you think that the PennDOT and Turnpike Commission already have enough money?
Well, no, I think it's a matter of a realistic plan for the expenditures. We have to sort out what really is needed from what is nice to do to please constituents and score votes, like a transit system. I haven't found a transit system yet that paid its way. But we do this in a way that it's, look what we're giving to you. We're giving to you, or we're giving it with somebody else's money. It's ridiculous. I think we need to make sure that what we're saying is a need truly is. Once we've identified that, we've got to come up with the way to pay for it. Maybe some taxes go up, maybe some go down, but the reality is it has to truly be need-based, and we're going to have to make hard cuts, not just in transportation, but in all the other areas that we owe so much money, and we're upside down. So it needs to be comprehensive, and it needs to be reflected in an attitude change from the legislators that you send to Harrisburg. They need to get real with this. I like to say, let the adults solve the problem. There have to be priorities. Some things will get cut. Not everything can be a priority. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Pam?
The Turnpike is an important highway, but so are all of our highways and bridges. Pennsylvania has miles and miles and miles of roads. It's very cumbersome, but we need a comprehensive transportation plan. You know, the governor's team came out with the Transportation Funding Advisory Commission report. That report will generate $2.5 billion in additional revenue over 5 years if it is implemented. There are a lot of good ideas in that report that could generate a lot of revenue that is needed, not just for the Turnpike, but for all of our highways and bridges. One of government's most primary responsibilities to me is the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Well, if you're driving on deficient roads and bridges, if we're putting our school buses on deficient roads and bridges, how are we meeting that one basic need? So we have got to work together to find a comprehensive solution, and transit has to be a part of it. We are a commonwealth. You can't just cut Philadelphia and Allegheny County out of the picture when you're talking about a state initiative. Transit is important to those areas. Transit is important to those people that ride those buses, single moms who need to be able to get their children to daycare so they can hold a job. Those kind of programs are important, and I think it's going to take both sides of the aisle. This has been my frustration with Harrisburg as a county commissioner since day one. I wish they would learn to operate as a lot of county commissioners do. We work together. We're two different political parties in the commissioner's office, but we work together to solve the needs of the people of Greene County. And that's what the legislature should do too. And if I'm elected to the State House, you can rest assured I will work with people. I will have an open mind, and I will always look at both sides and do what's best for the 50th district.
Would you be willing to raise taxes if necessary to pay for transportation needs?
I would be willing to look at what this Transportation Funding Advisory Commission has come out with in regard to car registrations. You can eliminate a lot of the costs by doing car registrations every 2 years instead of every 1. Doing away with the sticker on the license plate. Raising the registration a bit. The registration in Pennsylvania hasn't been raised in years. We're probably one of the lowest in the country for a car registration. There's money that can be generated. This report is extensive, but it's a good report. The governor's commission that did this report did a good job, and I think it should be implemented. A lot of it should be implemented.
Okay, thank you very much. Bill, you want to take the next question?
Certainly. That's to deal with Marcellus Shale, and that would be to Ms. Snyder. Do you think more or less regulations are needed for the Marcellus Shale industry? Do you think the state's DEP has done a good job of regulating the industry so far?
Well, as I said earlier, I sit on the Marcellus Shale Roundtable, and this is a group of people that come from all walks of life. It's the environmental community, it's DEP, it's county commissioners, it's the academic world, and it is the private sector. The industry is at the table. It has been a real remarkable process to watch because everybody does want the same thing here. The Marcellus Shale hitting our county has been a good thing. Is there challenges? Of course there are. But you know, for decades, we as a nation have said we need to be independent of foreign oil. Well, we can't do that unless we're willing to step up to the plate and do that. We have the opportunity here in Pennsylvania to be the epicenter of energy. I believe that with everything in me. Coal is a major resource in Greene County. Comprises 40% of our budget. The shell industry being there has helped immensely. It has provided jobs, it has provided wealth to landowners, it has provided economic gain to small business owners, and without it, our unemployment numbers, I don't even want to think about what they would have been. And we made sure that we were able to train a workforce through Westmoreland Community College. That's important. A trained workforce is important. If you're going to have an industry move into an area, the unemployment numbers aren't going to move if the workforce isn't trained. So that's important. Do I think DEP is doing a good job? I'm going to tell you what. I sit on that Shell committee with the Deputy Secretary of Oil and Gas for DEP and with a representative from the governor's office, and I'm here to tell you, they are on top of this issue. They are all over this issue, and yes, I do think they do a good job. Now, are things going to happen? Things happen in every walk of life. You know, nothing is perfect. We're humans. Mistakes happen. Accidents happen. Nobody wants to see those kind of things happen. But I think the state of Pennsylvania is doing the best they can to keep up with an industry that got here when we weren't expecting it or prepared for it. I feel Greene County's done a good job of trying to keep ahead of this. And I'm grateful that the Marcellus Shale industry is in our region because I think it's going to provide a lot of opportunities, you know, and I am really hoping that the cracker plant does hit Beaver County, that becomes a true reality, because I think it's going to have a huge impact on the region. And here again, it can't just be about one small county, it's got to be about the region.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Certainly. Do you think more or less regulations are needed for Marcellus Shale industry? Do you think the state's DEP has done a good job of regulating the industry so far?
Okay, let's talk about the DEP first. I think they've done pretty well. I've had a couple of conversations, and I've done a lot of research into what's going on. I think they're doing the best they can. Again, this is a government agency, and there are inherently problems that go with that. That's why government needs to keep its focus on what matters. And I think certainly the impact from Marcellus is very important to us. Of course, for all the financial reasons, absolutely, but we also have to look at the environmental impacts that are associated with it. The DEP's worked at it. I know we've got a lot of local groups that have worked on this problem and are trying to identify what's going on. We had an awful scandal a couple of years ago with fracking water being discharged unlawfully. Somebody went to prison, or got in trouble for that, fined and what have you. But the reality is that Marcellus is so important to the region here, and the 50th district, other districts as well. We have to come up with very effective ways to regulate the industry, but also work with the industry to maximize the production. We can do this. We've got people that know how to do it. I think that everyone stands to gain from this. I don't see the loser if we can take care of the environmental problems. Again, I'm not really seeing a loser in this scenario. It works. As far as the impacts, you know, the Marcellus has had an impact really around the world, but definitely across the United States. Look at the price of natural gas and the way that it dropped. It dropped down to bargain basement prices because we drilled so much and produced so much. That's a win. I wish we could get the federal government to understand that oil could work the same way. We could achieve some awesome results if we would just drill and get it done. Now, what I think needs to happen here at a state level, as far as DEP, I think we need a lot more interaction on the technological side of this, the engineering behind it, and the potential risks that affect environmental issues. I'm not certain that we know enough about the fracking problem, or the problems associated with fracking, to have a comprehensive set of solutions. It's going to require a give and take process that's going to go on for a while. There are experts out there. We need to reach out to them and rail in some of the unknowns. We can do that. Certainly,
you got 30 seconds.
Thank you. Certainly, it'll benefit the 50th District. I'm a big supporter of energy extraction of all types, and I think we can get the job done.
Okay, thank you very much. Jerome, you want to ask the next question, number 4?
Sure. This is again on the Marcellus shell industry, and there's multiple parts to it. Do you think the Marcellus shell industry needs help from state government? If so, what specific things would you like to see happen? And the other part is, what's your opinion of the current tax on Marcellus shell? Is it too much or too little?
Start with Mark.
Sure. When you say help, you're referring, I would assume, to dollars invested in the Marcellus shale industry. I don't think we have any need to spend state resources in the Marcellus process. We've got enough companies out there that are eager to get involved and get this done. I think I mentioned earlier some of the concerns about DEP and some of the technology. There may be a capacity there to put additional resources into government to understand and better regulate the industry. But direct money to the drilling industry, I would never support that. I don't think it's necessary. There's enough money that they can make to get the job done. I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Sure. What's your opinion of the current tax on Marcellus shell? Is it too much or too little?
Okay. My concern about the tax that is put in place on this is it was intended to support, my understanding, infrastructure problems, damage, things like that. What happened, and this often happens when you get legislation introduced, you get into a whole number of other areas that the money can be used for. And my understanding is a lot of this money ended up offsetting cuts in the budget, which is a no-win in this scenario. It needs to be highly focused on supporting the infrastructure improvements and repair from any damages that we incur. I think there might be some opportunities here to assess fees on gas production in a way that produces the results we need to do without taxing our citizens and then diverting the money in. Perhaps something in the regulatory capacity could be expanded where there's an additional collection on the gas produced to help not only with regulation but enforcement. I think we can expand that in some way, but nothing that should go to the point where it drives the price back up. When these gas prices are low, we all win. It's a benefit to everyone to keep the cost down as far as possible. Okay, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I think there are moments when the Commonwealth has to be competitive, and the cracker plant is a prime example. Do I think that taxpayer dollars should be given to gas companies for their benefit? Absolutely not. But do I think that the administration needs to make sure that we're competitive? Ohio and West Virginia were trying desperately to get this cracker plant, and most of us in the region thought they would. Really didn't expect Pennsylvania to win this one. I was stunned the day I heard that it was coming to Pennsylvania. But I think here again, the administration and the legislature worked to make sure that we were competitive with those other two states. Those are the kind of things that you do want to see your state government do. In regard to the impact fee, the jury's still out. As a county commissioner, we're waiting. You know, we're supposed to be getting our first check by December 1st. We'll see how that goes. I will say this. It's more than we got last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, because, you know, they've been drilling for quite a few years in Greene County, and we've gotten nothing. So, you know, at least this is a step forward. The impact fee is a step forward. And as a board member and an officer in the County Commissioners Association, we were very instrumental when that legislation was being drafted and being fought about and argued about in making sure that we had a seat at the table, as well as the Township Supervisors Association had a seat at the table to make sure that municipalities and counties were protected. So I'm really hoping that the impact fee will have a positive effect in Greene County and for our municipalities. And yes, you know, the state is always very creative in saying, hey, guess what? Greene County, you can use this for human services. And hey, over here we cut you 10% in the budget. So, we're used to that kind of maneuvering, but at least the revenue will be coming in, because the last thing you want to do as a local official, whether you're a county commissioner or a borough council member, is raise taxes on property.
Do you feel that the restrictions on where you can spend the money, are they too tight, or do you think that you feel you have enough latitude to be able to spend the money where you think it needs to be spent?
I think there is enough latitude. I'm not concerned about the restrictions. I think they needed to identify, where it would go. I don't think this money should just be able to go into the general fund and be used for whatever. I think it should be used for specific purposes geared toward the shell drilling. My hope would be, as a county commissioner, that when this money starts rolling in, I would like to see the county set up a competitive grant program with part of the money for infrastructure development. That's what we need to continue to grow. Water lines, sewage lines. That municipalities and authorities could come and be in a competitive grant program, and that they would be willing to put up a little bit of money too, so that we could leverage more money. Don't forget, the state is sitting there still with a pot of money, a big pot of money from this impact fee. We want to make sure we can leverage to bring every dollar back we can. Not just what we're entitled to as Greene County, but to make sure we can tap in to what the state is going to give out in competitive grants. So I think if we can establish a nice model locally, we will have a better chance to capture those additional dollars and bring them home.
Do you want to say anything about, I know you did kind of say you felt it should be more focused as far as where the money should be spent.
I'd be happy to respond. I think that, a couple of points about the way this is done. The distribution of the dollars is critical to, the places that have the impact must have the benefit from the money they're collecting. That's clear. But I would disagree some with taking too many areas of potential funding and making them available. When we get into the social services and everything else, I don't think the impact directly from the Marcellus effort is as clear as it is on the infrastructure and the damage to that. And we need to make sure that we get more money in the 50th district out of this impact system, but we also need to make sure it goes to the right things to solve our problems. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll take the next question. What are your thoughts about the coal industry in our area? Is there anything the state legislature can do to try and help the industry? We'll start with Pam.
As I said earlier, the coal industry provides 40% of our budget. Greene County is home to the largest producing coal mine in the free world. Greene County is also the largest producing exporter of coal to China in all of North America. So coal is extremely vital to Greene County. It's not an accident that we have a coal queen, a coal show, a coal parade. That's not an accident. That's because it is important. And the coal companies do pay their fair share of taxes. So can state government do anything to help the coal companies? Well, I think we need to continue to advance clean coal technology. We need to make sure that we can continue to export coal. We need to make sure that we are able to use that clean coal technology in conjunction with the Marcellus shale gas and be the leader of energy in this country. And I believe that Pennsylvania is sitting in a prime spot right now to be that energy leader. If you remember years ago when the internet hit the world, the Silicon Valley was the place. If you had an internet business, you wanted to be in the Silicon Valley. I think Pennsylvania could be the Silicon Valley for energy, and I think coal is a huge part of it. If we're going to be truly independent of foreign oil in this country, everything has to be on the table. Coal, gas, wind, solar. We have to have a comprehensive energy policy in this country.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mark?
Yeah, we can't be on top. The coal industry is vital to the 50th district, but we can never be on top if we have a president that has sworn to basically cause coal-fired and coal-used plants to price themselves out of feasibility. And that's happened. The war on coal, we see the signs. They're everywhere. People get this issue. We can't get in a situation where we look at clean coal technology when the die has already been cast. What we have to do as a state and as a legislature is resist as much as we can these intrusions from the federal government into our business at all levels. It fits with looking out for our interest here. The absolute dependence we have on the tax revenue from coal in this area, it would be crippling if we lost that. And we've already seen the first rounds of layoffs and cuts. I'll tell you what, to me it doesn't get any more simple than this. We can clean the technology up all we want to, but Washington right now wants to eliminate the coal business. I disagree strongly with that. I think that the government in Pennsylvania at all levels can fight this. Certainly a lot of this lies in the hands of the voters and the people that make the decisions this November. I am 100% behind coal. I think we can do it cleanly. I think we can burn it cleanly. We've made great advances over the last 50 years. Look at the advances we've made in using coal in a cleaner way. We can definitely go there. And I'll get one specific item, excuse me, about Pennsylvania and the coal industry. I've been on a bit of a working group that is I guess with a coal mine in Bobtown is about as deep as I want to go with it. It's a working group. We go, we meet, we listen, we learn about issues. I learned about one that was extremely disturbing recently, where the mine that's involved is cleaning up the old Shanapin water out of the mine through their treatment plant. They're trying to expand the treatment plant, and they got absolutely held up by some regulations that the EPA administrator had added to the mix. They were compliant with Pennsylvania, but the EPA was adding additional burdens onto this through DEP. And it was going to force a situation where in order to achieve the results the administrator of the EPA wanted, they would have had to have spent, the estimate was $110 million in infrastructure and $15 million a year to operate. Now, this is the numbers we were given. It was certainly alarming. Now, Pennsylvania can resist that through our DEP. The EPA is not our friend in coal issues. We know that. They work for an administration that is sworn to put us out of business. So Pennsylvania must fight that. We must reject those kind of intrusions. As far as the EPA administrator having the ability to just arbitrarily write something up and make it a regulation, strongly disagree with. We can fight this on a number.
30 seconds.
Thank you. We can fight this on a number of levels. We must do it for the future of our coal industry, for all the people that depend on it. And for the 50th District, we've got to take that kind of stand and reject this. I don't advocate polluting. This was not a polluting situation. It was a matter of how much they wanted to improve the water quality. We can do better. Thank you.
Okay. There, you want to take question number 6?
Yes. The state recently released the PSSA test scores, and many school districts in Fayette, Greene, and Washington counties failed to make adequate yearly progress. What do you think the reason is behind the low scores? Do you fault Governor Corbett for the education cutbacks, or do you place more blame on the school districts themselves?
We'll start with Mark.
Well, there's certainly a lot of problems here when you look at the issue of results and educational spending. There is no correlation. If you spend more money, I just read that our districts were spending an average that was very close to $15,000 per student now, and not achieving any better scores. In fact, the scores have dropped. And I'm not going to bore everybody with the numbers, but they've dropped quite a bit. I mean, it's a major hit, and I think that the problem here, to blame it on the cuts in education at this point doesn't make a lot of sense, because the scores have been dropping for 10 years, and except for they had a noticeable jump. There was a scandal about some of that affected the scores, but generally they've been dropping. And how can we say then that if we throw more money at this problem, it's going to get better? I think it's a different approach that we need. We need to look at the problem of capping the per student cost in education, and basically constraining the districts to work within that. Now that's going to affect a lot of things. Some districts are extremely cozy with the labor unions, with other organizations that have, they spend money on and the costs go up. We've got the prevailing wage regulations that artificially drive up the cost of any school facility, which makes absolutely no sense to me that would be okay when we're facing this much of a crisis. But the idea of just putting additional money on it doesn't necessarily change anything. I think you have to tie in some way the teachers and the administrators that run these programs to the results. You have to be able to say the better you do with educating the students, the better you're going to do financially. Right now we don't have that. We have boilerplate union wages. You're there so long, your salary goes up whether you're the best teacher in the world or whether you come in, drink coffee, read a newspaper every day and ignore the kids. We can't have that. We've got to have those folks in the business of educating our kids fully in tune with the best way to do that and motivated to do it. Additionally, we have to reach out to other technologies that are out there that we can incorporate into the public schools and innovative ways to think outside the box that lower the cost but improve the results. We're not going to do it by just writing more checks. That's the solution that we see so many times from standard politicians. Spend more money, it'll get better. It doesn't. It hasn't. We've spent more. In the last 10 years, we've spent a huge amount of money and the results haven't improved. It's not going to get there. Well, Einstein definition, I believe, was it Einstein that said insanity? Anyway, you keep doing the same thing over and over again.
30 seconds.
And you expect a different result. It's not working. So we've got to get creative. Now, we have the ability to do this, but one of the things is that the administrative process involved with schools has to be realistic about what's got to happen. And they've got to work with the teachers to make this happen. You can't just dictate. There has to be some understanding between all the parties. We've got to move forward. I think we're at that point.
Okay, thank you. Pam?
The public education system was designed in this country so that every child could have an equal and fair opportunity to be educated. It has worked for a long, long time. I think there are two things that contribute. No Child Left Behind, I think, was ridiculous. And when you talk about test scores, my husband and I have a daughter. She graduated summa cum laude from Waynesburg University. 4 years, all A's. She got 1B that first semester, about killed her, 1B. Give her a standardized test, terrible. SAT scores, not that great. Some kids just can't take standardized tests. They freeze, they clam up. I don't think it's a way to judge what that child is about. I don't think we do it right as a Commonwealth. Public education is one of my biggest pet peeves. A child should not have opportunities in this Commonwealth, more opportunity here than here because of their zip code. And that's how it is now. If you live in an affluent school district, your child has the laptops, the internet at their desks. They have all the tools at their fingertips. Go down to Mapletown. I'm sure you have some here in Fayette County. When sometimes they're playing basketball in the gymnasium and it's raining, you might get wet if you're sitting in the bleachers. It's not right, it's not fair, and it shouldn't be funded off of property taxes. This Commonwealth should have found a way years ago to find a different funding mechanism for public education. We owe it to our children. We sit around this table and we talk about coal, and we talk about gas, and we talk about all of our natural resources, but guess what, boys? Our most precious natural resource is our children. They are tomorrow's future. They are tomorrow's leaders. If we don't invest in our kids, what kind of a society are we? We have to invest smart, and we have to figure out a better way to fund public education. It needs to come off the backs of property owners. Pennsylvania figured out a way to take care of senior citizens. Let's start the lottery, and we're going to fund senior citizens programs, and it worked. A few years ago, we watched them bring in casinos. Legislation came down the pike. Everybody's property taxes are going to go down. Come on. We all know they tweaked them at best. I as a parent and a grandparent, I would rather them keep that little bit of money and educate my grandchildren well. I think our teachers work hard. The administrators that I know in Greene County all work hard. And I think they want the students in our public school districts to thrive. And I think we as a Commonwealth need to do it better, and the federal legislation, No Child Left Behind, needs to go.
Good. Okay, thank you. Bill, you want to take question number 7?
Certainly. There have been various proposals over the years to replace or reduce property taxes with an increase in the sales tax or by adding more items which can't be taxed. I recall this quite well. Overall, do you think property taxes are too high? And if so, what do you think can be done to try to lower them?
Start with Pam.
Me? Of course I think property taxes are too high, especially school property taxes. Just like I said for the last question, I really think we need to find a better way to do it. I think we owe it to our kids. I can tell you from the county's perspective, I really think you get a big bang for your buck on your county tax dollar. They're not extreme, but we offer a ton of direct services. When you look at what all county government does, it's pretty amazing. It really is. From running the jail to running the court system to all of the human services funding. There's a lot there. What was the second part of the question?
Certainly, I can repeat that. Overall, do you think property taxes are too high? You answered that. And if so, what do you think could be done to try to lower them?
That's it. Let me tell you another thing. As a member of the County Commissioners Association, we have lobbied Harrisburg. The only tool we have in our toolbox is property taxes. Only place a county has to go. We have no other real means to raise revenue unless you get creative, which we have. We've been able to bring in private dollars. We've been able to lease the county property, and we're receiving revenue on the shell leases. That helps immensely to keep taxes down. But we have asked the legislature for years, give counties the option to increase the sales tax by 1% in their county, like Allegheny County was able to do. Let the counties decide. Counties may decide no, just like they do with the impact fee. Let us vote yes or no if we want to do that. But at least in some of the more rural, poor counties where they're struggling, they have that option. They don't have to raise property taxes. They could raise the sales tax by 0.5% or 1% to generate additional revenue.
There has been talk about possibly increasing the sales tax or adding more items which can be taxed. Do you have any thoughts about that? Which would you favor? Or?
Well, it would depend, Mark, on what they were going to use the revenue for. I would have to see the plan to see what if you were going to tell me they were going to use it for public education, I'd probably say absolutely. But if you were going to tell me they were going to use it for, I don't know, some other hidden agenda, no. I would have to see what that money was going to be used for before I would vote yes or no to increase the sales tax.
Okay, thank you very much. Mark?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry. Can you repeat
Oh, yes,
the question?
certainly.
They wake up.
There have been various proposals over the years to reduce or replace property taxes with an increase in the sales tax or adding more items which can be taxed. Overall, do you think property taxes are too high? And if so, what do you think can be done to try to lower them?
Yeah. Okay. Property taxes are too high. I've got people that I've talked to numerous occasions that say, look, I don't even own my house anymore. I rent it from the government, for the property taxes. They're very high. It's just the way it is. A lot of it's school. County taxes, a little less burdensome. But my thought about property taxes, if you offset them, which the easy thing to do is say raise sales tax, you've got a whole new set of problems. Because if you drive your economic factors out of your area, people jump across a border, and especially being a border county, it matters. Do you buy the car here? Do you go somewhere or buy clothes somewhere else, whatever, to try to avoid the tax? Sales tax, it's counterproductive. But the other part of it is that I'm cynical about the ability to say we're going to cut property taxes, we're going to offset it with sales tax, and we're going to be just fine. Because I'll guarantee you, in a few years, some typical politician is going to come walking back in with some real good reason why we need to raise property taxes again. The issue is the making any change permanent. It's got to be real so that we're not getting ourselves further into the hole with a whole new layer of taxes both directions. The only way you do that is to cut the spending and to constrain government back into the box where they realize they can't do everything that they want to do. And this goes back to the traditional argument that we have to say that we're doing too much. We have to constrain what we're doing to lower the cost. It's the only way it's going to get back to being affordable. I can find a million good reasons to start any new program in government, to expand spending, to need more from the people. But the real leaders in this situation are the folks that step forward and say we've got to constrain it and we've got to make the hard cuts to try to avoid the out-of-control train wreck that we seem to be hitched to right now. Now, as far as the school and property tax too, I would point back, I disagree with my opponent on the issue of how well the lottery took care of the seniors as offsetting. I don't think it produced the results that it should have. I disagree with that assessment very strongly. And this is what we have to be careful about. When we get sold a bill of goods that it will produce a certain result, it may in fact not. And we've got to have representatives in there that are committed enough to say what it's going to be, do what should be done, and get the real results in a permanent fashion for people. Again, you move.
You have 30 seconds.
Thank you. You move the money around. That's not solving anything. We can play that game all day. We've got to make government work better and be less costly and less out of the box. Thank you.
Okay. Jerome, you want to take the next question, number 8?
Sure. Greene County continues to have one of the lowest unemployment rates according to the July numbers, which are the latest to be released by the state. Greene County was ranked 11th at 6.9%. Washington County was ranked 23rd at 7.7%. But meanwhile, Fayette County lagged behind at 57th with a 9.3% unemployment rate. What would you try to do to lower the unemployment rate in Fayette County?
Start with Mark.
Yeah, those numbers have crept up. I believe when I was here in the spring, it was 5.8% for Greene County, and that's crept up as everything is right now. We've got economic problems that are caused by too much spending in government, too much inhibition that's occurring in the business and economic sectors. We've got to make sure that we've got a climate that businesses want to come to and work. Now, in Fayette County specifically, I've talked about this before. I think that there's a lot of opportunity in Fayette County as a whole, especially with their location, the road infrastructure now that's there. We've got lots of opportunities here, but it's gone on and on and on where it just hasn't really gotten it done. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I can make up some answer. I'm not sure what the best option is here to get it done. I think that one of the problems, though, is the overall depressed nature of business right now and investment and the economy that produces jobs. And the reason we've benefited in our area have been some energy considerations and the work that goes with that, not just the energy, but the related opportunities. Same with Washington County. I don't believe Fayette's had the same impact at this point from it. Don't know why. Maybe it'll come, maybe it won't. But we've got to take steps to level the playing field so that a business can prosper anywhere in our Commonwealth, and then these problems will level out.
Okay, thank you very much. Pam?
Well, Greene County's unemployment rates have stayed relatively low, below the state and federal average through the whole economic downturn. And a big part of it has been because of the extractive industries. I mean, that has been the reason why people have been able to get jobs. And there's no question, Fayette County hasn't had the drilling activity that Greene County has. Now, I think you're getting a little more now. I think there has been a little more activity over here on land leasing and things of that nature. But we are in a collaboration in Greene County with Washington and Beaver on our Workforce Investment Board. Here again, you have to be able to identify what jobs are available, and you have to be able to train the workforce. And that's critical. And we have been very active and aggressive here to try to make sure that our people are trained for the jobs in the Marcellus Shale. Westmoreland Community College has done a tremendous job at that. They worked with the industry to identify what jobs were needed, and they made sure that they adapted the programming so that our people would be trained. And a lot of folks in Greene County have gotten those jobs. And I think that's something that maybe, I don't know what comprises Fayette's WIB. I don't know if you're in with Somerset and Westmoreland. I'm not sure who you're partnered with. But I would say that would be one of the things that I would want to do. I would want to work with your local officials to make sure that the Workforce Investment Board is doing everything they can to provide the opportunities to your residents, to train them for the jobs that you have here, and to train them for jobs in neighboring counties. There are quite a few Fayette County people that come over and work in our coal mines. And, I'm sure there's Fayette County people working on some of the drill sites. So you want to look regionally here again and see what opportunities are out there and make sure you have a trained workforce. And of course, you always want to be able to try to attract new business and industry. And I know for sure a couple of ancillary industries that were in Greene County because of the Marcellus Shell activity, and they needed a site, so many acres. And that's one of our biggest challenges. We don't have access to a lot of land in Greene County. Fayette County has industrial parks. They have control of the land. That's so important. We lost those companies to Fayette. Calfrac was one of them. Those kind of stories break my heart. But we didn't have a space that suited the footprint they needed. So they came here. And if it can't be us, then we're glad it's our neighbor. But those are the kind of things that we just need to continue to work on and work together on.
Okay. Thank you very much. Your predecessor, Bill DeWeese, served for 36 years in the state legislature before being found guilty of corruption and being forced to step down from office. Some people said the problem was that he was in office too long. Do you agree or disagree, and what's your position on term limits for state legislators? We'll start with Pam.
I sat here 2 years ago and told you my position on term limits. I am for term limits. I've been commissioner 9 years, and I don't know if this opportunity hadn't come up, if I would run again. I think 12 years would be enough, and it's time for someone else to step in. And these jobs can be, if you do your public service job right, it's a full-time job, and if you put everything into it that you've got, and I do, it keeps you stepping. I am for term limits. Is that the reason Bill is where Bill's at? I don't know. Possibly not. I don't know. I just know that that's the past, and I'm trying to look to the future. And right now, the 50th district doesn't have a voice at all. And I think the people in this district deserve one, need one, and I hope on November 6th they'll choose one and that it will be me.
Okay, thank you very much. Mark?
Yeah, I support term limits. Absolutely, I think it needs to happen. I'm not convinced that obviously term limits would have prevented Bill from having a problem because he would have been out of office. But I said before, what happened there I thought was it was a legislator that was there, and the system changed, the rules changed, the focus changed as far as some of the practices which were accepted when he went into office. And at the end, those things weren't going to fly anymore, and he got caught up in that. So yeah, term limits would have prevented it just from a logistical standpoint. But I think term limits are important. You get people that get in and get too complacent with what's going on, and I think it affects the drive that the politician has to produce results and do good things. If they can just basically sit there and be reelected time after time, you need some new blood. I've said before that if I'm successful in November, I certainly hope I am. I'm not looking to make the rest of my life a career in this seat. I don't think it's appropriate. But I think that what you try to do is you get in, you make the best impact you can, and then you move on and turn the reins over to somebody else that'll do the same thing. We haven't had a lot of that. We've had a lot of politicians that have been in office way too long at all levels of government. And I think that helps to get us into the mess that we're in now, where government's grown to the point and reached into so many areas that people are fed up with it. Talk to them every day. I know they're fed up with it. So that would be my comment about term limits.
Do you have anything specific for legislature?
Yeah, I said before 8 years. I don't see any reason to change that at this point. It made sense to me. One of the criticisms is that you have to achieve power in the state system, and it takes years and decades to do that, and that may be the case. I don't see what having all that power really did for paying off in the 50th district. I mean, it helped some, but I don't know. It's more about party games and politics to me. So I think you can have an impact. The issue is to put the most competent person in that can do the best job and reach across to others and convince them about the issues. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, this will be our 10th and final question. Terry, you want to take it?
Yes. Groups such as volunteer fire departments are upset over upcoming changes in the small games of chance law. The law essentially puts the burden of reporting winnings on the group selling the chances. They're claiming the laws are too detailed and will result in them earning less money for their groups, possibly even jeopardizing their existence. What do you think of those claims? Are you worried that groups such as fire departments will go out of operation because of it?
I am extremely worried about this law.
Yeah, it's
Oh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I thought it was my turn. Sorry, Mark.
No sweat. Absolutely, this is a huge problem for these organizations. They depend on this money. Look, volunteer fire departments in the 50th District are the best deal we have. You don't have all the labor costs. They do it for free. They focus on equipment. They focus on the stations. They focus on training and good service. You can't beat it. Excellent. And any time the Commonwealth puts itself in a position to where it's going to do such a thing and create a burden, you got to ask yourself why. Why are they doing this? And I got to tell you, we're with our casino structure that we have around the state that's supposed to produce all this revenue for us. I think there's a direct competition factor there that we need to consider. Is it? I don't know. Could it be? Absolutely. And I favor making it simpler for any of these organizations to raise funds. Let me be very clear about that. I dispute, any kind of regulatory authority from the government that's needed to keep things safe at a firehouse that's having a bingo competition. Give me a break. Same thing, Texas Hold'em type tournaments, things like that. Gun bashes, whatever goes on, cash bashes. Small games of chance. I don't see the problem with it. And I don't think we need the nanny state government to step into these firehouses and tell them how they're going to raise funds. If you want to do that, then come up with the money to pay people to do the job. Otherwise, stay out of it and let the volunteers handle it, do a good job. And I think they do. It's very passionate to me. I've had a lifetime of public safety work. And I was a volunteer in Waynesburg. That was the first place I got involved in firefighting. And we had a little different situation with fundraising, but we saw what departments like Jefferson did with their bingo and the massive amount of improvements they funded and equipment. We as legislators, absolutely, and I'm sure I'm not going to get any disagreement from my opponent on this, we got to really support the fire departments, and this is one way. And I think there are others, but this is just one way that we can help fight, bad decisions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, he's right. We agree. When the casinos came in to Pennsylvania, it really chipped away at the fire companies and the volunteer organizations, the churches, the fire companies. Not just fire companies, it's churches, it's all of the nonprofits. Because people were running to the casino instead of playing bingo. Now, this law, it's ridiculous. The word volunteer needs to resonate in the halls of Harrisburg. What are they going to do when firehouses have to close their doors? We depend on our fire companies for so much. One initiative that I'm extremely proud of as commissioner, my first year in office, had a fireman come to me and say, we really need a dedicated funding stream for the fire companies. We did some research. We wanted to see if there was any legal way that we could impose a county-wide fire tax. We couldn't. Only the municipality can impose a fire tax. But we set up a grant program, and we give a dedicated funding stream to all 16 fire companies in Greene County. We've done it every year that I've been commissioner. And for some of those fire companies, they would have had to have closed their doors if it weren't for that $3,000 that they're able to get to keep them open. This is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous piece of legislation. Harrisburg needs to start over. It boggles my mind. You've got women who enjoy going to the firehouse to play bingo on a Monday night. That's what they do. Okay? You've got the cash bashes, the gun bashes, the Las Vegas nights. This is what keeps them operational. I can tell you from our church's perspective, if we didn't do our fish fries, we wouldn't be able to pay our bills. I mean, it's just that simple for the nonprofits. So I am all about supporting the fire companies. You know, those guys do a job that I know I couldn't do, and when my house is on fire, I want them there, and I want them to be able to have the equipment to put the fire out.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's going to conclude the question part, and now we'll give each of you 3 minutes for closing statement. We'll start with you, Pam.
Well, again, I want to thank you all for taking the time to do this and for letting the voters be able to watch this online. I've been working for 9 years as county commissioner in Greene County. 2 years ago, I did run for this office, and I was defeated. I wasn't looking for this year. I was not looking for this. In my first year of a 4-year term, but yet I felt the call to step up because I believe the people in the 50th District deserve and need a voice. Under my leadership as county commissioner, we have had a balanced budget every year. We have more than doubled our reserve fund. We have a fully funded pension plan. We give direct grants every year to 16 fire companies, the Food Bank, the Historical Society, the Humane Society, organizations that, if we weren't able to do it, it would either be the municipality's problem for animal control or people who really needed food wouldn't be able to get any. We contribute to Westmoreland Community College every year so that our residents have the opportunity to continue their education and have the opportunity to work and live in the region. I have the knowledge, experience, and relationships to be an effective legislator, and I want to be a voice for all the people. You know, I have a lot of folks who ask me, Pam, why do you want to do this? You know, right now you're chairman of the Board of Commissioners, you're the big fish in the little pond. Why do you want to do this? Well, I may be the guppy in the ocean if I'm in Harrisburg, but I will tell you this, my voice will be heard, and my door will always be open, and the people of this district will be represented. I pride myself on bringing people together to find common sense solutions to everyday problems, and we need more of that in Harrisburg and in Washington, D.C. Nothing frustrates me more as a county commissioner than to see the partisan politics on the state and national level. It's wrong. When you are elected to serve the people, you are elected to serve all the people. You don't have the luxury of saying, oh no, I disagree with you philosophically. Too bad. You know, I have served with 2 Democrats and 4 Republicans in my 9 years, and I'm going to tell you, one of the proudest things I can say to you today, we have never had a split vote at a public meeting. Can you say that in Fayette County? Or can you say that in Washington County? I don't think so. And that is because we do what's right for the people. We don't let the politics interfere. And if I am fortunate enough to be the representative for the 50th District, I will take that same attitude to Harrisburg. So I humbly ask for the voters' vote on November 6th, and I thank you again for letting me share my views with the public.
Okay, thank you very much, Pam. Mark?
Thank you. Once again, really, this is a good forum. I like the way this is done, and the people get a look and make up their own minds. Very helpful. I've spent a lifetime working in public safety areas, government areas, consulting, and every step of that way, I tried to do the right thing. And the right thing is sometimes really hard to do. But I worked to get educated, and I've got a lot of degrees. They don't matter much to the voters. But along the way, you get to learn about how people do business and how they think about things. And you learn about the politics. I've done all that. And I've tried to look at the situations that we face and think about how we could make it better in a meaningful way. I'm a results-driven individual. I think we need to really achieve results here that endure and last. I don't think we've had that. We've had results, but they haven't been, I think, the kind of change that the voters tell me they really want. It's going to be hard to do. You're not going to do that by playing the party games in Harrisburg and trying to, let's just say, walk the party line. I won't walk the party line. I'll do what's right for the voters. And I think that's what matters in this case. We have seen time after time examples, during the last few years, that drive it home to the voters. Things are not right. You can't solve every problem with government. You can't spend every dollar you want to spend in government. I'm the kind of person that can look at things as a product of all my experience in education and say, does this make sense? And I don't think we've had that in government at any level for a very long time, at least consistently. I want a chance to do that for the 50th District. I know the folks I've met, they've commented, they've watched the videos on my website. I talk very specifically about every issue I can think of and every issue somebody sends me. I'm not afraid to go on the record. What you have here is a known quantity, if you will. I say what I feel and what I believe. I'm not so close-minded that I don't consider other aspects as they become available. But I think that experience I've had and that involvement with all the different government entities I've worked with have given me the ability to really make good decisions and communicate effectively with the people that I would represent. And I think that's what matters to them right now. Thank you. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Okay, that's going to conclude our program today. Once again, we want to thank the candidates, Mark Fischer and Pam Snyder, for coming in and meeting with us. And I want to thank you out there for watching. We'll see you later.